Thank you, Chairman Stevens and Ranking Member Feenstra and subcommittee members. I'm Mary Saunders, Vice President of Government Relations and Public Policy at the American National Standards Institute. ANSI has coordinated the U.S. private sector-led standardization system for more than 100 years. Standards are a building block for U.S. innovation, competitiveness, security, and quality of life. This fact has been formally recognized in both U.S. law and policy and in the United States standards strategy. One of the great strengths of the U.S. system as compared to other countries is our public-private partnership. Neither government nor industry claims or exerts overall authority. By working cooperatively, we can most effectively respond to the strategic needs of the nation. The U.S. system is based on the principles of openness, balance, consensus, and due process, and embraces the participation of all directly and materially interested parties. The resulting standards are consistent with the principles of the World Trade Organization Agreement on Technical Barriers to Trade. Our market-driven, private sector-led, and government-supported system is critical to achieving the widely shared policy goals of expanded U.S. leadership and innovation on the global stage. A long-standing memorandum of understanding between ANSI and NIST recognizes the value of the public-private partnership in our respective roles. With respect to representing the U.S. globally, ANSI is the official U.S. representative to the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, and via its U.S. National Committee, the International Electrotechnical Commission, or IEC. In this capacity, ANSI works to ensure that all U.S. interests are considered in the formulation of U.S. positions in these international standards bodies. U.S. leadership in international standards forums is essential because it allows us to ensure the integrity of the process, assuring a level playing field, open participation and consensus, and standards that are globally relevant. The pace of change of critical and emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and quantum information science, is ever increasing. And the number of standards activities and venues has grown dramatically to keep pace. There are also a larger number of global players actively engaged in standards processes. As competition for technology-driven advantages intensifies, the need for globally accepted standards is greater than ever. An open, rules-based standards system that reflects changing global marketplace needs is key, and maintaining the integrity and impartiality of international standards development processes remains a priority. We've heard concerns expressed in various policy venues regarding China's ambitions for increased influence over international standards. While China has increased its participation in ISO and IEC, we do not see that as threatening to U.S. influence or contributing to dominance in those venues to date. In fact, ANSI and its members have encouraged China's participation in rules-based international organizations in lieu of developing their own standards that may not reflect the consensus of the global community. Success in international standardization is built on trust in the system and its values and its rules. And the U.S. has long enjoyed a positive reputation as a reliable partner and leader in the international standards development process. Recently, however, trust in the U.S. private sector-led standards process has begun to erode in some quarters, driven by the false perception that the system is somehow inadequate to the challenges of the current environment. Some proposals in the legislative and executive branches seeking to address the limitations of the private sector-led approach have been perceived by some observers as the government putting its thumb on the scales. From ANSI's perspective, a long-term, proactive approach is required to ensure continued U.S. global leadership in standards development for critical and emerging technologies. This approach should encompass sustained investment in R&D, expanded coordination among government, industry, and academia, expanded collaborations among U.S. government and like-minded partners, and a clear commitment to industry-led standards development processes. ANSI urges the U.S. government to redouble its commitment to industry-led standards by supporting and advancing widely accepted principles for the development of international standards and continuing to incentivize U.S. stakeholders' participation in international standards. We also call for the expansion of public-private partnerships for standards-related education and training. And finally, we urge a consistent approach to the treatment of standards in government-to-government dialogues and coordination with the private sector on messaging. ANSI stands ready to assist this subcommittee and its parent committee in further deliberations on the U.S. standardization system and our public-private partnership. I'd be happy to answer your questions.